Okay, updates. Last week we merged, changed returnurl from absoluteurl to relativeurl to fix also some multi-tenancy issues. Oh, no, it didn't break multi-tenancy, but it fixed some proxying issues. So this was on 1.10x. Add token for request header. Yeah, token, and be careful, I am always confused. Tokens in Orchard 1 are the little things that you can insert in templates. Tokens in Orchard Core are different. They are nothing. So yeah, to get the header values from the request, like you have the form, the route, and also I assume Diego fixed some other ones, which I don't see here, but oh yes, here he fixed the other tokens that were wrong sometimes. Then big PR, but it's just copy pasting the code from Orchard Core, so there is no.
Yeah, and I'm removing the async words everywhere from everywhere.
What? Someone said something. Milan said something.
Yeah, it's just a copy paste.
It's just a copy paste. Yeah, that's what I assumed. Okay, sorry, I have to close the door. Just a copy paste. So we'll see a demo later. Framework resources. Fixing a regression with style.include. Yes, the style.include was not working anymore when you had custom versions in the resource definition. And on dev branch, a framework resource fix resource manager code styling and failing resource manager tests. Some more fixes on the resource manager on 1.x this time, which we didn't merge. It was pushed directly. On 1.10x. Okay. The goal being to have everything on one line, apparently, because if there is less code, it's faster. Exactly, that's it. Okay, fix resource manager code styling and failing resource manager test. Oh, it's a fixing. Okay, and fixing automatic merge mistake in resource manager. Okay, and updating the web config in content preview and media library web search to fix build warnings. 12.0. 12.0. Interesting. Good. Questions?
Can you hear me?
What?
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm on my phone. It's working on my phone, so
you can see the screen on your phone.
More or less. Yeah.
But not on your computer. Okay. I assume you can join both. You can join with your computer to talk and watch your phone.
No. No, I don't think that's possible. At least it logged me out from the other session.
I see. Okay. Okay, so I assume we should jump on the demo from Milan about the live preview. Let me make you presenter. Your turn.
Okay. I'm sharing my screen now, theoretically.
I will tell you when everyone can see. I can see, and it looks like everyone can see. So we are good. Thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Milan Kessler from Lombiq Technologies, and I'm going to speak about new Orchard.1.x module called Orchard.ContentPreview. And let's start with enabling the module. And after that, I'm opening a test content item. The main concept was that the user wants to see his changes on the admin side immediately, somehow, on front end, without save draft or publish button clicks. And I think we accomplished that. So after the enabling of the module, you can see a preview button. If you can see that, it's probably you don't have the right permission for it because there is a new one. And I'm clicking now, and you can see on the right side of the screen the content preview feature in working. So if I'm start typing letters, you can see immediately the changes on the right side of the screen. I'm using a published content item, but you can use new content items or drafts too. It's not necessary. On title part or text fields, numeric fields, body part, on every keystrokes, it will triggers, and you can see the results immediately. But on body part, you can use formattings too, and it works too. On the other hand, the layout part works with odd elements, for example. I add a break element, or I am adding title part, for example. But on the other hand, the text changes not. You have to save the text changes before you can see it, but I'm writing one other elements because, yeah, here's. Also, there are error handlings. For example, if you are typing letters into the numeric text field, you can see the Orchard errors on the right side, but for correcting it, you won't have problems with this anymore. Also, it works with more than one TinyMC editor, so it's not a problem neither. And also you can use images if you want. It works, it just works. And in the layout part also works the moving the elements, not just the add or edit or delete, and also works the keyboard or keyboard shortcut events, not just the click events of your mouse. And that's all.
Beautiful.
About the functionality, but what is under the hood. So it's a backport of the OrchardCore 1, and I copy pasted the logic. So if you are triggering any event, it will update an local storage item, and there is a listener on the front-end side, so it will immediately make the change, and you can show the result in an iframe, exact in an iframe. Yeah, and behind the copy pasting, I had to implement the TinyMC editor, so it was easy actually because there is a preview HTML in that, so I just used that, and it was 5 lines, and that's all. But on the other hand, the Orchard layout module, I haven't found the proper events what I want, so I had to write code in that, or the Orchard layouts module, but I haven't touched the functionality, just new JavaScript events what am I triggering. And actually, that's all what I want to say. Thanks for the attention.
Thank you very much.
Oh, one more thing, sorry. There is a warning message because we haven't implemented it yet, but says the content preview feature doesn't support properties where there are relationships to content part record, for example, taxonomy or text, but feel free to contribute.
Some changes that I envision in OrchardCore is to be able to have the preview inside the same window as the editor using let's say a frame on the right, so you can, because you see here, to prepare the demo you had to size your window half the screen, and because you will show the preview on the right as a new window. But I think in most of the cases it would be nice to have it inside the same tab, inside the same Chrome tab, the same browser tab. And
it's already in the core. Sorry.
No, it's not. And it used to be like this. Then we changed it to a different page because it was better for technical reasons, and it allowed us to have it outside it very easily. But I think it would be interesting to be able to have it inside the main window, and to have a button to say pop-up that will open the same URL but in another page, so we can dock it on the right if we need. But most of the time, I think it's better to have it in the same window. And technically, it should not be hard. Instead of opening the link in a blank target, we can just inject an iframe somewhere in a zone that we define in the layout on the admin to inject the same thing. That will work too. So maybe that would be nice. And then we could even provide tools to resize the zone for the mobile view, and like Chrome does, but we could also integrate it directly in the iframe. Might be interesting. Just saying.
Sounds good.
But it's beautiful. Thanks a lot for backporting some modules to Orchard 1. Great. So I will share my screen and jump to OrchardCore updates. That everyone can view. Everyone can view. Hopefully also Benedek. Pulling the changes here. Lots of commits, but it's just Jasmine playing with text. And what do we have? Add a core CMS meta package. We talked about it last week, so we are here now. This is a branch. ContainedPart Index renaming due to some feedback from a demo last week from Jasmine. Now the parent of the list part is called list content item ID. Until we decide to change everything for list and call it container, but list is fine. So that's good. That's consistent now with the list part, so that's good. Yeah, at least the name of the index field. Isham, fix localization context issue in OrchardCore.Templates. Yes, good catch. If we inject a service factory like iString localizer, like iLogger, the class here is usually the same as the container one. And for localization, it's super important because it will drive what string we take. So we make a mistake here, it won't be able to find the correct translation. If you use a logger, it will work. You just won't be able to change the logging level for this class. But if you do it for the localization, it won't find the string. It's worse. Then I updated the versions of Jint and Fluid because they were too old, and there were some changes and bug fixes, mostly perf improvements in Jint since last time, and Fluid some fixes. Using StringBuilder pulling from Fluid, so this is still on the dev branch. Some perf improvements. The ID is that instead of creating you see that this pattern, creating a new string writer to write something from a generator that accepts some encoding, it will create a string builder, so it will allocate some objects every time. And in this case now, so the goal is, for the logic is to use Liquid Template Manager, which calls into the correct methods of Liquid that already pull some string builders. So just don't create any string writer ever, or ask someone, do I really need to use a string writer or a string builder? So in this case for Liquid you don't need to, because we pull everything, so it's less allocations. And I changed everywhere we were doing it. And also changed the Liquid Template Manager to provide a way to render a string directly instead of writing to a stream, which it also is using the correct fluid call to pull the string builders. Before there was no way to do that, so I did that. I did this change and changed the code to be able to call the correct one. So now it's allocating less, so it's faster. Because it's allocating less, it's faster, and there is less GC pauses, so it's even faster. And I added some documentation on the different calls. One that writes into a text writer, so if you want directly to write to the response or to a buffer, an existing buffer, and this one that will create a string for you. Fixing the new template rendering async when there is no view context. So then Jean-Thierry fixed some issues that I introduced with my refactoring. Common helpers for the 2 template render async extensions. Then he refactored some code to reuse some code. This is just me working on this thing, we'll see later. Optimizing arguments for dictionary of strings. So this is just a new overload for the arguments that from when we create a shape from objects, in this case a dictionary. We had a method that was taking a dictionary of string objects, and this one is a string, and to make it more optimal, and I think later that Jean-Thierry also fixes it. Small refactors to Resources CDN and settings, so some updated UI mostly on the CDN options to add more details on the hints and to group them. They're the same logical group for CDNs. Then Marco made a change to improve the perf of casing when we want to convert a liquid property to or a tag helper property to their C# properties. So he optimized that, and I think we optimized, and yeah, I think there was an issue after. We'll see that. Then branches, fixes ToPascalCase. So then Jean-Thierry found an issue, and he refactored the ToPascalCase, and then I introduced 2 methods, ToPascalCase underscore and ToPascalCase dash, so that we can cache the results of this thing, because usually when we convert an attribute to the PascalCase property, it's always the same attributes. So now it's cached using an immutable dictionary, because it's mostly read, and when we want to write it, we just create a new dictionary with the same content as before and the new value without using locking. And that makes less allocations, and that makes everything faster. This is a very interesting technique, by the way. I was using a lock, and then Jean-Thierry told me, no, use an immutable dictionary. And I did that. And in case, Jasper, also you wonder, super interesting to look at. Fixed datepicker UI. The datepicker was going above the toolbar of the HTML editor, so he fixed the index with a custom CSS for that. That is merged with the admin CSS. Okay. Then add more detailed steps on README for OpenID is just configuring IS for OpenID. Just more steps. Instead of check, allow, read, these are all the steps. Sorry, instead of add the relevant identity, these are all the steps to add the relevant identity. Lucene indexation, convention on null field values. So the idea is that now when you try to index null value, it will write null in the index. So there is a value in the index, so it won't be a miss. But yeah, let's say for instance you want all the content items of a specific content type with a specific field. Okay. If you don't have any value, you won't find anything, even if there is a or different than something. So we need a value with that represents that there is a field, but with a default value. That's what Jasmine did. And then on the dev branch, we have predefined list blank option fix from Jean-Philippe. We have some branches, so we still work on the 3.0 branch. We try to merge dev continuously now there to not have big merging issues later. Antoine fixing GitHub typos. Jasmine working on too many things to remember. I reviewed these two PRs with Jean-Thierry last week, so he made some changes. I need to react to that. And the big change from Jasmine right now as a PR is supporting custom Lucene analyzers and also Lucene indexes settings like which content types, do we want only published versions or also latest, and also fixing the sort order. So many things for the Lucene index. Do you want to do a demo, Jasmine? Or not, or next week?
You need a demo of what? Those analyzers? Or
yeah.
Because yeah, I could show maybe the progress I made and explain the changes that I made in Lucene.
So I let you prepare yourself because you will need 5 minutes. Dean, do you want to show the Azure Blob storage?
Yeah, sure, I could show that. It's still a bit of a work in progress at the moment, but we're a lot further ahead. So,
and we can explain the design decisions that were discussed also. So you can share your screen if you want.
yeah, are you seeing that?
Nope. Wait. I will tell you when I can see because I'm recording. And I can see. Nice to meet you too. Can everyone see? I think so.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. If Benedict can see, everyone can see apparently.
Excellent.
It works on a phone.
So we had a very good chat last week about the direction for the caching and how to store, essentially how we could retrieve blob storage files to a local physical store to still continue to serve them through image sharp for resizing and serve them through Orchard.
And also the other files that are not resizable, like PDF files or anything. Viruses.
Yes, and the other files as well. So I refactor what I looked at previously to a point where we have a lot less code in the code base, and we're able to serve all of our blob storage files through either image sharp or through the static file middleware. which just means that there's a lot less code there that we have to maintain, and it works well.
It's simpler also to understand how it works, and it's also more extensible when you want to add new providers. Everything is
it reduces the I think it reduces the files in the Azure Blob feature to 2 or 3. So implementing a new provider is a lot simpler. So I have a little bit of UI, which is still a work in progress, just to clear a bit of cache. So I'll clear some cache, and then we can see it load from blob storage. Like I said, this is a work in progress, and we'll add a little bit more to it.
So this button, Purge Media Cache, this is the media cache, not the image shop cache.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the blob media cache. And we'll look at the image shop media cache a little bit later. So if I refresh this now.
And just to mention to anyone who doesn't know what is this cache, because for you it's obvious, you've worked on that for weeks and you know everything. The idea is that we don't want to serve the Azure blobs directly by rendering their own URL that points to their blob, so that the client loads the Azure blob directly and not us. What we want to do is we want Orchard to load the blob, save it locally on the server instance, and we serve the file directly. And this file, which is copied locally from the blob storage, is what we call the media cache. And we do that because if we want an actual cache that the clients don't ask us to serve the file, we will use a CDN, which Azure Blob Storage is not. And also by doing that, we can process the files to resize them, process the blobs to resize them if they are to be resized by image shop. That's 2 things to solve here. Good.
So I'll refresh this one. And it's a little different to your normal agency template, because I've added a lot more images in at different sizes, because I was testing how well it responded to multiple requests for the same image. So that's just gone and resized and pulled everything in from blob storage. And we have a whole set of images.
Can you show the URL of the image?
So the URL we see here is our localhost URL, which I'm pretending is a CDN at the moment. And then the host, which is just agency, and the normal media address. So what I've done is I've requested images that are sized at 480, and also some 124 ones and some 2048 ones, just to see how the performance is when you really load it up.
Mm-hmm. And these files come from Azure Blobs.
And these files, they come from Azure Blob.
So what's interesting here is that ideally there are 3 requests coming for the same image with different sizes, but there is only 1 blob on Azure. So ideally you just send 1 request to Azure to get the file, store it locally, and then resize it in the 3 different pipelines and serve the 3 different files, which are cached by image shop also. So there is a cache of the blob file in the media cache, and then there is 3 cached resized images from image shop. And did you see that you only send 1 request to the blob storage? Because you made some code to handle that, so that if there are many requests in the same blob storage, you will all await on the same file at the same time, instead of sending 3 requests to blob storage.
I'll drop into a little bit of code just to give everyone a hint of where the how the sequencing works. So let's go to the startup first, shall we? Some notes in here that I'm just working on. So if we look at the middleware kind of sequence first, what we do is, if we're using blob storage, so if we've registered a cache in the blob storage module, we use a media file store resolver, which is the middleware that will resolve that first before image sharp gets an opportunity to resize it, or before the static file provider serves it, if it was, for example, a PDF. So the resolver is nice and simple. It just checks to see if it's all of a valid request. It asks to see if it's cached. If it is cached, what happens here? It just checks to see if it's still being written, because what can happen when there are multiple requests coming in is the file will be created on disk, but it's still being served from, or still being streamed from Blob. So we keep a bigger screen here. We keep a concurrent dictionary of lazy tasks, which is all the tasks that are being written at the time. And so that's what happens if the file is cached. So it's just a quick check in the dictionary to see if it's still being written or if it's already been written. So most of the time, the file's probably going to be there by then, so it's just going to pop straight back out. Let image sharp take over, or the static file middleware. If the file isn't in the cache, we get it from the file store, or we start a task to get it from the file store, save it into the cache, but this task, because we're using the lazy async task, is only actually executed once.
It's very technical to use a lazy task. It's very technical because I understand, because I did the same thing for different products, but the idea is that the concurrent dictionary, when you have two things that try to access the same item and it's not there and in parallel, the concurrent dictionary will execute the lambda twice. It won't say, oh, it's concurrent, but it doesn't prevent the thing, the lambda, from being executed multiple times. So if you have 10 threads that come asking the same file, the 10 of them will try to execute this lambda. But your lambda is returning a lazy of a lambda. So what happens is that you get 10 different lazy of lambda which are created, but only one will be added to the concurrent dictionary, and only one will be returned to the 10 callers, which means in the end, even though you have 10 lazy tasks, only one will be executed, and this is the way to prevent 10 concurrent runs of the thing. If you didn't use a lazy, you could still have 10 concurrent runs. That's the idea, and that's very unknown from the dev community, I think. So I was surprised that you used that.
Yeah, I found it in some ASP code, ASP.NET Core code, when they initialize the request pipeline and adapted it from there. It worked very well, actually. The problem that I was having before I found this technique was that as soon as I had that big page you saw before with lots of requests on it, there would just be constant I/O exceptions because everything was trying to read a file that was being written at the same time. So using this, I've just removed all of those issues.
And the fact that we return a task, we really need to see that task as a work is being done by some thread. Then all the other threads will get the same task, because now even if there are 10 threads who get the same lazy, there is just one task, and they are all waiting on the same tasks. So the task is running, and all these threads are just freed, and they're just waiting for the task to be done. And when the task is done, all the threads get the same result, which is, hey, the file is available, read it. So that's super, super nice.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so what we have here is the file arrives into the pipeline, it will get saved to disk. when it's finished saving to disk, we just pull the task out of the dictionary, and then everything else that's awaited on it, possibly up here or here, will complete, and then the next piece of the middleware gets to take over and deliver the actual file. So yeah, what I'm probably working on at the moment was just starting to abstract the cache a little bit, so that we could, at a later point, probably add some checks in to see whether the file that's in the cache should be refreshed, or whether it's expired, or whether it still exists on the blob storage. And just provide a little bit of a UI where other modules could plug into that.
Yeah, but I think I commented on that. I think it's not about abstracting it, it's about not abstracting it and letting each module who wants to provide better caching support provide its custom implementation, its custom UI. So when I enabled, for instance, I don't know, my awesome cache that can be purged automatically, then it does all the things it wants. It stores everything it wants somewhere in a database in some metadata, and then it provides a UI to configure how the cache will be refreshed. So in this case, for instance, this UI will not show up. You will just see a different page from the module. So this one could still be there because we can expect any cache to be able to purge everything. But then you will have media cache and maybe a tab in the media cache page for all the settings, or just under that, all the options from the custom cache implementations that can be provided later. For instance, I mentioned that in the comments to give an idea. We could use a SQLite file to store all these blobs and store also all the metadata about these blobs, like expiration date, size, and everything, so that a background task could, or not even a background task, so we could know how much size is taken by the cache and just revoke something else by size or by most recent used or anything, because we have all the metadata. And maybe also if we have lots of files, the SQLite database might be faster, because if we have too many files in the folder, maybe it's harder. Or maybe on Azure websites, the database, the file system is slow, so we need to use a different storage. So yes, so each implementation can come with its own UI of features it can provide. And purge media cache, I think, is fine for now. If later we create other cache strategies, cache storage strategies, then we can provide other UI for that. So I think it's fine to keep the abstraction like it is today, which just a media cache can just purge the media cache, and you provide a button for that. That's it.
Yeah, this is the nice simple one, and I think what I did today, which just kind of in response to that one, was just kind of migrate the cache implementation so that it's not tied totally to being an iFile provider.
Yep, and I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably it still needs to be a little bit related to an iFile provider, because at the moment we use the static file middleware, and that needs to take an iFile provider. I just take some interfaces around the outside of it so that we can implement a different caching strategy and store some metadata in different ways.
Okay.
So no, it's coming along very well. Hopefully get a little bit further ahead with it the next couple of days.
And also what you did is also support for the CDN, because when the file is served, well, I mean, when the URL of the file is rendered, we can use a CDN prefix, so that a CDN server can be hit directly, and this guy will ask us for the file and we'll cache it. And that's what.
The idea behind this is that, I mean, if we've got a lot of files stored in blob storage, we don't want them to live on our server forever, because that kind of almost defeats the purpose of offloading your files.
Well, some people use blob storage because they want more space, or they have multiple nodes, they want to share the media, that's it, and not just about perf CDN is
No,
there.
it's not just about that.
Yeah, the CDN will be there to provide the perf. Yeah.
For me, it's, the blob storage is also very important for distributed.
Exactly.
It's just crucial. But so the idea is that the CDN will provide the highest level of caching for you, and you're able to purge your local media cache without finding that your website crawls to a halt because you're having to resize all the images, because they will be mostly stored in the CDN. And if they're not, the CDN will come in and fetch them, and the cache will go away and fetch them if it needs them, and refresh as required.
Yep. We still applied max age header on these files.
We do, yeah.
Okay, which is a setting. Just to remind everyone, we have settings for that. We can set the cache headers from the settings, and yeah, okay.
Yeah, and most CDN providers will respect the cache headers you provide.
Yeah.
Sometimes they offer rewrite options as well, but the best is to be able to control it from within Orchard, because then you have total control over what your CDN is doing.
So I've seen some, I looked at the Nginx configuration to manage the quota of the cache, and they have custom support. Well, it's configurable, and that's what people do apparently in practice. You can send a custom verb like purge, a HTTP verb called purge, with the URL so that the cache will just refresh the item. So CDNs don't do that, browsers don't do that, so it's safe. It's kind of safe to implement, and we could also protect it with a key if we want. But in case you develop a website and you know a file has been changed and the customer is like, hey, we need to update this file and the cache, we don't want to remove everything, we could provide a purge verb that the middleware will handle and just delete the cache and just reload the blob. That would be an option. Or the UI could also be able, based on the provider, be able to show all the items which are in the cache, and then we could just pick the ones we want to remove from the cache. Just some things that are open now with your implementation.
Yeah, both of which sound really possible, and I think it's useful to be able to see in the UI, because it's always the one file that you've changed, that the customer changed. But, you know, they don't ever change. They don't change all the files. But you know, they change their entire logo, and then they wonder why it takes a month for browsers to update.
Maybe something to think about in the abstraction, at least, to be able to list the elements which are cached and some metadata, so we can just revoke, purge items. That might be interesting. I would assume that any better cache will be able to provide support for that, or a custom interface that a cache provider can implement, and if it implements that, fine. If it doesn't implement it, we can't provide a UI. That will work also. We could work with interfaces like this to provide custom pictures, custom UI. You know, because you have the iMedia cache, which can purge. We could have an iMedia cache. I can list my items, and then we can have pages of items and purge specific items. That will work too, and then the UI will be common. Yeah, that will work. Okay.
Yeah, I thought something kind of along the lines of something that just collects what cache UI options are available from the different providers, and they can draw their own.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I think that's it.
Cool, thank you guys.
I hope we can merge it soon.
Yeah,
for us and for you.
Indeed.
Awesome. Well done. Jasmin, you want to show us the custom analyzers?
Yeah, sure.
You don't have to. If you want to wait a week, that's okay.
It's 15:53. It's for you.
Five minutes, go.
Yeah, it won't take long.
Just to show the features that are implemented.
Just tell me when you can see my monitor.
Mm-hmm. So I can see and Benedek can see. So we are good.
Okay. Here in the Lucene settings, I added an edit button, so we can now edit each index, and we can set the content types and also index a draft.
Wait, so just goes to so here in an index we can define what types we want to index, because before by default it was indexing everything, I think, or you had to check in the content type what you wanted to index, but it will flow on all the indices and not just the ones we want. So here we can select which type we want to have in this index, and also by default it's only indexing the published versions, but now there is an option, index draft latest. So it will still index one content item, but the latest version, so aka the published or the draft if there is any draft. And this option is super useful for admin, because when we are in the admin and we search for a content item, we want to search even in the draft content. But when we are in the front end, we want to show some results just from the published content. So here, if you wanted to have the same items on the admin and on the front end, you could create two indices, one for the front end with only the published version, and one on the back end with also the drafts. Awesome.
Yeah, and here we can see the results. I can select which one I want, and I created a draft here. Yeah, title drafted. And if I'm querying on the one that doesn't have drafts, I'm going to get title. And you can see here the content item is published, but it's not the latest. And if I change for the draft, it's going to say title drafted, and you can see the latest is true, but the publish is false. So yeah, and also I added here on the queries something to be able to sort by type, because each field there in Lucene are either string or integers, or depending on how we decide to index a field. So for example, here we have numeric field, which is indexed as a string value, because we index null value as null text. So we can't really use here. Normally we should, because here if I show you in the code, when we are indexing, we're using int32 to index in this type of field when we have an integer, and we create an int32 field. So if I'm trying to search and sort for this field, I either need to do something like int32 here, or a patch that I found is that we can use a string val to do the same. So
as a dev, should I just use int32? Is that
yes.
That looks like the standard way to do that, even if there is a null value. So like do that. Put int32. What happens?
Is going to show nothing, because my field is not int32.
But it's a numeric field.
Yeah, but I'm creating a patch for this, which will use the content type definition of, and for a numeric field we can have a default value here.
I have to check. I don't understand. I understand, because numeric field returns a number. So the index handler of the numeric field stores a number. So
yeah, but I could want a null value for.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the null value. Go back to the query and run the query. I want to see the result. Yes, int32 and query.
It's going to show nothing.
What? That's why.
because we indexed the null value as a string field here.
But in one of the items, the other one?
Yes, just one item.
Oh,
which,
if there is just one, it fails everything?
Yeah, you need to use a string value.
Remove this code. Don't store null, then store 0 or store nothing.
We can't store nothing. We need to store something. So here, either I store 0.
Don't put null for sure.
But it could be wrong because something could not be really 0. I mean, a number here is 0 is not determining that the item has a null value.
I know, but
it doesn't mean it's null. It's 0.
If we don't have a default value and there is no value, the index should have a value. Like an int32 has a value, always.
In this SQL Server...
and if we don't have any value, we can't search on the fields?
Yeah, this is the issue with Lucene. You need to have a value.
So we put a value, 0, or whatever, 666, I don't care.
Yeah, we need to determine this. This is the thing that I'm working on right now. But yeah,
okay,
this is the sorting works. We need to figure out conventions on everything.
Or the mean value or whatever. Or maybe configure per field what's the indexed value. But we need
you could use int32.min value, which would be the default null value.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. And the analyzers, the settings?
Yeah, it's there, but I removed my custom analyzer here. But we can.
Not even with the custom ones, just to show how you edit. I didn't see that.
It's here.
Oh, good.
It's going to have a list of the analyzer that you can use for.
Yeah, the idea is that when we index and we tokenize the text, we need to tokenize based on the language, and we need to query with the same tokenized logic. So here we can provide different language analyzers for each index. So if you know the text of this type or these items is French, then you can use a French analyzer. It would be interesting now to have a filter also. If you see me coming, because we have content types, we have draft, but maybe we should have also culture. So if the culture of the content item is of this culture, then index here. Like we could have all the products of the French language in an index and of the English language in a different index. That could be interesting. And we have an aspect for that, so you can check the culture of a content item. Interesting. Maybe we should do that too. It can be later, but I assume it will make sense to. So it's good to be able to provide the analyzer on an index basis. Good, but it means we expect all the content items to be of this language. If you have a mix of languages, then you might want to provide which languages you want in this index based on the list of languages we support. So we should have a checkbox of all the cultures we support, and then select which ones we want to include in this index. If we want everything, we don't select anything, but if we just want French, then we will select French only. That would
but maybe for each culture have an analyzer selected.
No. You want a custom index per culture, because otherwise, when you do a query in the index, you will have content from different cultures, and that will be bad, I think.
Yeah, but right now this is what we are doing. If I'm
that's what I'm saying. We need to make it better. Yeah. Otherwise, here you need to do a mapping, like the French analyzer with the French content. Maybe there are 3 French cultures, but the same analyzer. That's too complex. Just create different indexes. So,
I agree.
Okay. Cool, awesome. Thanks a lot. Perfect. All done. All the demos have been done. Is there any question? So no question. Announcement. Antoine, have you done the work?
Yes.
Good. If I go to Orchard Core and I go to settings and I go to collaborators and team. Remember my password? Yes. Orchard Core devs. Nobody. One pending.
Members.
Where is members?
Orchard Core devs. And there is a tab members.
So today Antoine added Dean, Jean-Philippe, and Hicham, who hasn't, I assume, accepted yet, which means now they have write access to the repository. They can merge PRs, they can delete branches, create branches. They can't merge to master. It's secure. But they have more power on the repo just because they contributed enough and with enough quality that we can trust them now. They learned how to contribute to Orchard. So welcome to the club, and sorry. Now we can give you also tasks that before you could not do. But that's good, I assume. Only Hicham hasn't accepted yet. Congrats, guys. Maybe you didn't want that. We can remove you, or you don't have to accept the invitation. But I know Jean-Philippe, at least, and Hicham had asked for that. Dean, I'm not sure. But that's also maybe easier for your flow because you can create branches directly on Orchard. You don't have to use your fork and merge your fork with the core repo. But we trust you enough that you won't do too many mistakes. And if you do mistakes, we can remove you from the members. We have done that by the past. I've done that, I think, once or twice when someone will do some big merging mistakes. Temporarily remove the rights until it was clear about how it worked. Questions? Great. Thank you, Antoine, for updating the repo. And so see you on Thursday for triage. Oh, maybe not. I have to go to the airport. I'm not sure. I think it's right in the middle of the meeting. So maybe I won't be there, but I will tell you and I will send a message, okay? If I can do the Thursday meeting. So worst case, see you next Tuesday. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.